Welcome to the North Shore Community Association's podcast, July 6, 2022. Hello, this is Annie Lafrenière, the NSCA's Programs and Communications Coordinator. Today we celebrate Baie-Comeau's 85th anniversary. For the occasion, we asked experienced and bilingual tour guide Walter Bisson for a little piece of the town's history. Then we will cover community events on the North Shore during the month of August.
Hello, and thank you for joining our podcast today. We will be interviewing Mr. Walter Bisson, a very active and involved member of our community. Mr. Bisson is involved in many community events. However, today we will focus on one of his passions, that of being an English language tour guide. Mr. Bisson, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and I hope that I can enlighten you people with what is going on with the tourist season this year.
I understand you provide guided tours offered through Tourism Baie-Comeau to visit Baie-Comeau's Heritage District and its attractions. Baie-Comeau is full of history, some of it quite colorful. It also provides a lot of activities, especially during the summer, from ziplining, sea kayaking, open-air music festivals, whale watching, beer festivals, to painting symposiums and museums. Baie-Comeau does have a lot to offer. Mr. Bisson, briefly, would you describe how Baie-Comeau came about to be and how tourism is impacting the city?
Well, let's put it this way. I think we were very, very fortunate to have the person that did discover Baie-Comeau, Mr. Colonel McCormick. He first had a love for fishing, so especially salmon fishing, and this is what brought him really to the North Shore. And while he was salmon fishing, he also realized that holy smokes, this area is nothing else but rivers and streams and lakes and wood. And at the time, he was looking at building a paper mill in Ontario, but he could never understand that if he built a paper mill in Ontario, where he would get all what he needed to produce newsprint. So with his first salmon fishing trip was around 1910, down in a little town called Shelter Bay, which today is Port-Cartier. And it was there that he realized that he could make a deal with the Quebec government to be able to cut his timber here. And he had his own boats anyway, and ship the logs directly down to the mill in Thorold. Then along came the First World War, and he being a real true American, where he went to war, became a colonel over there, and while he was a colonel in the American forces, he met a man who was in the Canadian forces, Arthur Schmoon. And he mentioned to Schmoon that when he got back from the war, that he was going to go to Shelter Bay and start bringing down wood and shipping it by boat to Thorold. Would Schmoon be interested in setting up the town in Shelter Bay? Well, to make the story short, war ended. Schmoon went home, picked up his wife that he had just married a week ago, and said, "We're going to Shelter Bay." So down he went to Shelter Bay, and that was the beginning, really, of Quebec North Shore Paper Company. Everybody thinks that the first place they came was Baie-Comeau, but it was Shelter Bay. Later on, he bought the Chicago Tribune, and then he bought the Washington Post. And the more newspapers he bought, the more wood he required. So he decided that maybe he should be getting other rights to cutting wood in the province of Quebec. So he tried. At the same time as he was doing this, the Price brothers were building a paper mill in a little town called Clark City, which today is part of Seven Islands. But he started thinking, holy smokes, they take a long time to build something. This is not really. And they weren't really interested in his type of newspaper. They were going to do some work for Britannica and make encyclopedias. So it wouldn't be the same type of system. Then he tried the Anacostia Island. When he saw the timber there, he said, well, this is it. I'm set for life. But the trouble was, the guy that owned Anticosti Island was an old chocolate maker from France, and he said, no way, I'm keeping Anticosti Island as it is for me. I'm not allowing anybody to cut a wood. So down the coast he went further. Then he came upon a little town called Franklin, and there was a group in there called the Jalbert brothers, and they were up from Lake St. John. And he said to them, how are things going? And they said, pretty rough. We lost a lot of wood last year. We had a lot of trouble. Well, he said, why don't we get and become partners? So they became partners. And then, of course, again, now he had ended up buying the New York News. And there's just no way he could have enough timber unless he got some more from Quebec. And this is when Duplessis said to him, whoa, 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 whoa. All we're doing is we're supplying you. You're supplying us with a lot of money with bushwhackers and all that. But we need, if you're going to have that much business, we need a mill. So McCormick said, okay, fine and dandy. And he had flown over the Manicouagan and Utah River how many times going down towards Shelter Bay. And he made a deal with Duplessis to have all the logging rights on the whole Manicouagan River, which would mean around 500 miles of logging rights if he built the mill down in somewhere around the Manicouagan River.
That's a big order.
That's a big, big order. So anyway, he decided this is exactly what he's going to do, and that was back right after the 28, 29. Then we had the Depression, and that held him back a bit, because you got to remember, this man has never asked for help from government for money.
Just a private funder.
But completely private funding. A very, very wealthy family. If you go back to their grandparents, you were talking to people in the McCormick spice business, McCormick farm tractors. They were always a wealthy family. Anyway, with that, he said, fine and dandy, Baie-Comeau was going to be it. And he picked the bay down here. And at the time, he also had to run into our famous Napoleon Como, who was quite a character. He was a telegrapher. He was a historian. He was a little bit of everything. Anyway, they decided the best place would be right down here at Baie-Comeau. So he put together, got Schmoon to say, okay, Schmoon, would you come to Baie-Comeau and run? And they decided they couldn't have the same thing that Price Brothers had. So he wanted everything built in 18 months.
That's a big project for not that much time.
Big project for but he said there's only one way to do it. And having all these military people around him, of course, they were all properly trained for that type of stuff. You know, if you're moving in 1,000 troops on a field, or you're moving 1,000 troops to cut wood, what is the difference as long as you're organized? So he decided that, okay, fine, let's make 1936 as a dead date. We're going to start building something in Baie-Comeau. So in 1935, there was an old wharf down here in Baie-Comeau that they used to ship stuff out of, especially the traders, at Hudson Bay Company.
Oh, yes.
And so they decided to fix that up, and then they'd hire 5,000 men. And they said, fine and dandy. And they told the 5,000 men, and they were all hired on the south coast, the Gaspé Coast, the south coast, I would say, and either Matan or Rimouski. And the thing that helped so much for him was that at that time, the Gaspé Coast was 100% farmers or fishermen.
Good, strong men.
Good, strong men, and men that basically, like the fishermen don't fish in the winter, and the farmer doesn't really farm in the winter. So these guys are sitting back at home, and they would prefer to be somewhere else making money.
Of course.
So what happens is that in the month of November, and the same thing with trees, you don't cut trees, and especially in Baie-Comeau in the summertime, because before you get a tree cut, the mosquitoes would have eaten you anyway. So you wanted to wait for winter time before you did anything. And the same thing for the hauling. Everything's much simpler in the wintertime. It slides easier. So they made a decision, 5,000 men, 18 months, no women allowed. And anyway, that decision was made, and sure enough, a dam was built on the Utah River, and the mill was started, the homes were started, and McCormick had said right at the start, it has to be families and families only. And he said, well, we'll do it as a house is ready for a family of 5, or a family of 7, or a family of 9. That's how we'll hire. And you got to remember that the only thing here in Baie-Comeau at that time was trees, dust, and mosquitoes.
You had to be really committed.
Yeah, you had to be committed. Because I'm going to tell you, When my father told our family, and I was born in Chicago, and at the time I had a daughter, my sister of 8 and a sister of 11. And when we were told that we were going to live in the town of Baie-Comeau, but nobody told us that the town of Baie-Comeau wasn't even built, that when we got off the boat here in 1941, my oldest sister, I can still see her, she said, I'm going to have to take care of you and Kathleen, because she said, Mom and Dad are gone nuts, completely nuts to come here to live. What is there here? Don't forget, for her, she was going to school in Chicago, tramway in Chicago, theaters in Chicago.
What a shock.
What a shock. But anyway, make things short. Everything was started. The first roll of paper was rolled off in 1937. 2 machines going, and he kept to his word. The fact that there would be a Protestant school, a Catholic school, a Catholic church, a Protestant church. The little Anglican church was built in a period of 3 months. 1937, the Catholic church was started, the schools were started, everything was started. So everything he said he would do, he did. Secondly, he said, I'm going to build a community center. And in that community center, and when you think of it back in those days, to have a community center with a bilingual library, a big gymnasium, an auditorium, skating rink, curling rink, bowling alley, everything, squash courts. In 1939, it's quite something.
He was a man of vision, truly.
He had a man of vision, and he said it. He said, to make people, and he's always thinking of trying to keep the family happy. He said, if I do that then the children will have a place to go.
Yes.
So mom's not going to be having to worry about the kids all the time. And we want to finance this thing. What we'll do, okay, all the men like to drink beer, so we got a tavern going. So the tavern belongs to me. The liquor store belongs to me. So all the profits from that will go into the sports center. And then we'll just charge a little annual fee of $5 to make it look good. And that's how we started this community center.
What a wonderful, wonderful piece of history, and an amazing man, actually, to have that vision.
Amazing. And they give us a gift, and after 15 years when the mill was operating, he said, he held a bit of a meeting, and he said, it's about time you people had a good surprise, because he said, you've done a great job, and we are producing top-notch newspapers, and I mean, we were running 2 machines at the time. He said, it's time to bring in a professional hockey team to play against a local team, because you guys are all great hockey players. So everybody was sitting back trying to figure out what the hell is this about. So what we knew that was coming was the Chicago Blackhawks were flown into Baie-Comeau.
Oh, wow.
We were the first small town with a population less than 10,000 people to have a professional hockey team spend a weekend with us.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a great way to keep the people happy as well.
Kept everybody happy. Except the poor hockey players when they left there. I don't think they had anything left but the clothes on their back, because everything else stayed as a symbol that they were here.
Oh, that's great. Walter, that is just a super piece of history that we should all retain and be proud of.
From July 1st to August 15 at 8:30 p.m., come to the Parc Nature at Pointe-aux-Outardes, where there will be stargazing activities when nightfall comes. Using a telescope and guided by an experienced astronomer, you will make breathtaking discoveries that are sure to change the way you see your place in the universe. The average time for the activity is 2 hours. Visitors must reserve by 3 p.m. the same day. The activity may be cancelled due to cloud cover or high humidity. From August 4 to 6, Baie-Comeau invites you to explore the fascinating world of beer during the Festival de la Bière de la Côte-nord. Come discover and savor some 20 brewers and distillers from the 4 corners of the province. Enjoy musical performances and festivities throughout the day. See their website for the full schedule. From August 4th to August 7th in sept-îles, Inunikamu, one of the biggest Aboriginal music festivals on the continent, will celebrate its 38th year. Over 4 days, artists from different nations take to the festival stage to perform in different musical styles. Through the festival, the community of Washat Maniotenam seeks to